from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay? Here we go. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Veta Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I actually need water. Okay, so this morning we're going to read from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And I'm reading from one of my favorite sections of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this is the Lord's tour of South India. So follow along with me. I'm going to read one Bengali verse, and then I'm just going to read the story to you, and then we can pick some topic here and have a discussion. Okay, here we are. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. This verse is in Sanskrit. I'll just read it to you. It goes, Danyam tam name chaitanam vasudevam dayardra di nashtakushtam rupa pushtam bhakti tushtam karayaha. You guys know some of those words, right? Pushpa. This is the very first verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 7. This is in the Lord's tour of South India. Yeah, this is Madhya Lila. Adi Lila is mostly philosophy, and Madhyam starts with the Lord's pastimes. Mostly it's pastimes. Yeah, chapter 7 takes 1. Now, I'm just reading this one, and then I'm going to keep reading just the English, and we'll get the story. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being very compassionate toward a Brahmana named Vasudeva, cured him of leprosy. He transformed him into a beautiful man, satisfied with devotional service. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the glorious Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda Prabhu, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. After delivering Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the Lord desired to go to South India to preach. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order during the waxing fortnight of the month of Magh. During the following month, Phalguna, he went to Jagannath Puri and resided there. At the end of the month of Phalguna, he witnessed the Dol Yatra ceremony, and in his usual ecstatic love of God, he chanted and danced in various ways on the occasion. During the month of Chaitra, while living at Jagannath Puri, the Lord delivered Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and in the beginning of the next month, Vaishakha, he decided to go to South India. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called all his devotees together, and holding them by the hand, he humbly informed them, "You are all more dear to me than my life. I can give up my life, but to give up you is very difficult for me. You are all my friends, and you have properly executed the duties of friends by bringing me here to Jagannath Puri and giving me the chance to see Lord Jagannath in the temple. I now beg all of you for one bit of charity. Please give me permission to leave for a tour of South India. I shall go to search out Vishvarupa. Please forgive me, but I want to go alone. I do not wish to take anyone with me. So he's asking permission to go and search out Vishvarupa. Does anyone know who Vishvarupa is? His what? His elder brother. And why is he going to look for him? He took sannyas and he traveled away. And so he wanted to go and meet his brother now. So he's asking the devotees permission. Please let me go. Until I return from Setubandhu, all of you dear friends should remain at Jagannath Puri. I got it. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, sir. No problem. Thank you very much. Perfect. All right, let me get comfortable here. All right, so here we are. Lord Chaitanya is asking permission, and he's telling everyone, you stay here at their home in Jagannath Puri, right? Just stay home. And knowing everything, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was aware that Vishvarupa had already passed away. A pretense of ignorance was necessary, however, so he could go to South India and liberate the people there. So does that mean that Lord Chaitanya was lying to them? God lies? Oh my God, this guy can philosophize a lie. This is a spiritual lying. This is what Gurukulins do. Oh, I see. Okay, now I understand. Now I understand. The Gurukul class that lies, that cheats together, graduates together. Okay, let us read on. We'll see here. Knowing everything, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was aware that his brother had already passed away, but he still used it as an excuse. Why? Because he actually wanted to liberate the people in South India. Upon hearing this message from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees became very unhappy and remained silent with sullen faces. Nityananda Prabhu then said, how is it possible for you guys to go alone? How is it possible? You think we're going to tolerate this? Who can tolerate this? That's the exact words. How do you say that in Bengali? Huh? Tulsi, don't you speak Bengali? How do you say it? Oh, your voice. What a perfect excuse. You are all, now I know you're all devotees of the Lord Chaitanya because you all lied to me. No, I know. I'm just joking. See, in Bengali, you say what? It says here, let one or two of us go to you. How is it possible? Who can tolerate this? Oh, yeah, here. Who can tolerate this? That's, you say it in Bengali, Hiha Sahaya. Does that sound right, Tulsi? Iha Sahaya. Is that how? You speak Bengali? You can speak Bengali, right? Oh. Is that right, Tulsi? But when she looked at it, what did she say to you? Ah, okay. Now, if devotees are walking around, what is it? If devotees are walking around saying this, Keha Sahaya, like who can tolerate this anymore? Okay, here we go. I won't make any more jokes, you guys. Let one or two of us go with you. Otherwise, who may fall into the clutches, or you may fall into the clutches of thieves and rogues along the way. They may be whomever you like, but 2 persons should go with you. Indeed, I know all the paths to the different places of pilgrimage in South India. Just order me, and I shall go with you. Wow, Nityananda Prabhu immediately. 2 have to go with you, and I got to be one of them. Why? Because he knows all the past. Okay. The Lord replied, I'm simply a dancer, and you are the wire puller. However, you pull the wires to make me dance, I shall dance in that way. After accepting the sannyas order, I decided to go to Vrindavan, but you took me instead to the house of Advaita Prabhu. While on the way to Jagannath Puri, you broke my sannyas staff. I know that all of you have great affection for me, but such things disturb my activities. Do you know the story why he broke his staff? Lord Chaitanya was dancing in ecstasy, like it says here that he usually was in ecstasy. That's how it's just, Lord Chaitanya is described, like somebody who's like usually, what? Usually like doesn't want to go to work, usually doesn't, not happy about the relatives visiting, usually, like, well, there's all these things, right, that are, people are usually like, right? But Lord Chaitanya was usually in ecstasy. So what happened was he was dancing in ecstasy, and only two things that Lord Chaitanya had after he took sannyas was his sannyas danda and his kamandalu. It's like a pot for water with a handle on it. And so he would give those usually to Nityananda Prabhu, the danda and the kamandala, when he would dance in ecstasy. And it's described like when he would dance in ecstasy, not only would tears would shoot out of his eyes like syringes, and all of his skin would erupt, the hair would erupt, but some of the descriptions are really amazing, like his body would blow up like a gigantic pumpkin, and his arms and legs would go inside the body like a turtle's limbs come inside, and he would roll on the ground crying and screaming out Krishna's names while foam would be gushing out of his mouth. That's not the kind of love of God that you just find around the block, right? Or found in the bottom of a what? What did we used to find in the bottom? Cereal boxes, they have that, or what was it? Cracker Jacks had something in the bottom of the box. Right? That's not the kind of love of God that you find in the bottom of a Cracker Jack box. So, yeah, so Lord Chaitanya, when like those kind of symptoms he would exhibit, and so Nityananda had the danda, and Lord Chaitanya was unconscious, in total ecstasy. And then Lord Nityananda, actually, he was really upset that Lord Chaitanya had taken sannyas from Keshabharati Maharaj, who was a Mayavadi. And so Mayavadis carry a danda, a bamboo stick that's wrapped, that's just one stick, eka danda. But a Vaishnava carries what's called a tree danda, like a tree dandi, right? Tree dandi sannyas. So the tree dandi is 3 pieces of bamboo, and they are represent one's body, mind, and words. And then they are tied together with 10 Brahminical threads. So the 3 dandas are tied together with 3 Brahminical threads. Then they're wrapped with saffron cloth, which is the cloth of a renunciate or a sadhu. And then the top is a curved piece of bamboo that's a cut small piece of bamboo that's heated over a fire, and then it bends. And then it's tied to the top, and that represents that the soul is now in complete submission of his body, mind, and words to Krishna. So, but the Ekadanda means their danda represents that now I am Narayan, I am God. And usually when the devotees would see Mayavadi sannyasis, they get very angry because it's so offensive. And what would happen, so what Nityananda Prabhu did was he said, how in the world did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes sannyas from a Mayavadi, and he's carrying an Ekadanda? This is just not right. This is so offensive, So he took the danda and he snapped it into 3 pieces. And he said, okay, now it's a tree danda. But Lord Chaitanya was in ecstasy. So after he snapped the danda into 3 places and he realized what he had done, he panicked. So he took the 3 broken pieces of danda and he threw them into the Ganges. So when Lord Chaitanya came back out of ecstasy, he was asking, oh, where's my danda? Didn't I give it to you, Nityananda Prabhu? And then Nityananda said, oh, you were dancing in ecstasy, and then somehow you fell in an unconscious state, and you broke the danda, and now I don't know what happened to it. Again, First, it was Lord Chaitanya lying here about going to South India to find his brother who's already passed away. And now Nityananda Prabhu is lying about the danda being broken. My God, these guys just don't stop lying. The Lord. So then, Lord Chaitanya knew that Lord Nityananda was lying. What do they say? You can't hide your lion eyes. So then, Lord Chaitanya got really angry, and he left immediately. Said, "I'm not taking anybody with me to Jagannath Puri, and I'm going to go myself." And he just stormed off, very angry. So I'll just tell you a little bit more of the story, and then I'll go back here what was happening. So look, there was a debt collector. A toll collector. I don't know if you guys ever noticed this in India. I'm sure Tulsi's seen it, or if you've been to India, Prabhu or others. They usually have these gates that come down and block the road. Like when you go into Vrindavan to see Krishna and Balaram, they block the gate, they block the road. It's like a railroad crossing block, and then they take tax money from you for the road and everything, or for whatever. So in those days, that's how they would collect taxes. Like Madhavendra Puri was carrying the sandalwood, so he had to get a special letter from the king that he could carry that sandalwood without being taxed, bringing it from state to state. So they would tax everybody as they would go through those crossroads, whether they were, a tax on sandalwood, a tax on, the roads, a tax on just coming to the particular area. So Lord Chaitanya was chanting his japa, walking, and he was angry, so he was kind of like, very solemn, grave, and just walking through, walking by the tax collector. So the tax collector saw him and said, "Oh, look at the sadhu," and he's so seriously chanting. So he didn't even mention anything. He just opened up the gate and let Lord Chaitanya go through. So then, like about 15 minutes after that, because he had gone really quick, like stormed off and had gone ahead of everyone else, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, so many other devotees. There were about 30 devotees there traveling with him. And they came to the tax collector, and the tax collector put the gate down and said, "Pay the tax." And then they said, "But sir, we saw you just let that sadhu go without paying tax, and ahead of us." And then he said to them, but he's a sannyasi. What excuse? You guys are mostly grihastas. What's your excuse? And they said, "Oh, no, you don't understand. We've given our life, we've given everything, our jobs, all of our money, everything. We've given it all to that sadhu, and he we don't have anything." So the debt collector says, he thought about it for a minute, and he was thinking, how many times I've heard this excuse? So then the tax collector, he said, okay, let me get to the bottom of this. So he said, "You wait," and he went and got Lord Chaitanya. He said, "I have to ask you something." He brought him back to the toll booth, and Lord Chaitanya's on one side of the gate, whatever it's called, that arm, and the rest of the Panchatattva and the other devotees are on the other side, and they're looking at each other. And then the tax collector says, "They say that they all know you and they've given everything to you, and they don't have any money to pay the tax." And Lord Chaitanya was chanting japa, and he looked at them, and they looked at him, and he said, "I only know Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna." The point of the story is that when you chant your japa, you're only supposed to know Krishna, nobody else. No, I'm just joking around with you guys. But that is partially true. 50% of that, I would say, is true, unless it's your guru that's standing there, or some serious devotee, or somebody that's named Nishringarupa. So anyway, what happened was then Lord Chaitanya, he said, "I only know Krishna, I don't know them." Then the tax collector said, "See, I knew you guys were lying. Now it's Lord Chaitanya lying, Nityananda is lying, and now all the devotees are lying too." My God, man, what kind of movement have we joined? So then, finally they resolved the whole thing. But that's Lord Chaitanya took that as an excuse. He used that as an excuse with what's being brought up here, to force the devotees to let him go alone to South India. So he says here that, so now what Lord Chaitanya does here is really beautiful, because what he does is he describes how all the devotees' love for him, he uses those as excuses for why they shouldn't come with him. And he criticizes their love for him as false. So first one he picks on is Jagadananda. So Jagadananda is who in Krishna's pastimes? Satyabhama. There's a beautiful book called Gaura Ganadesha Deepika, which describes how all the different associates of Lord Chaitanya are the gopis and the queens and the Krishna's associates. Just like we know, right? Who's Lord Nityananda in Krishna's Leela? Lord Balaram. Who is Advaita Acharya? Mahavishnu. He's a combined incarnation of Mahavishnu and Sadashiva, but generally he's worshipped as Mahavishnu. Who is Gadadhar? Radharani. And who is Srivas? Narada Muni. So one of the special features Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains is that the devotees of Lord Chaitanya are generally present in spiritual forms, both in Chaitanya Leela and in Krishna Leela simultaneously. How does that work? You got to ask this devotee sitting here. He'll explain it to you. But yeah, so Jagadananda was Satyabhama, and so Jagadananda would always complain about Lord Chaitanya out of love for him. So like Jagadananda, he wrote one of the most important books on Krishna's pastimes. And you only find pastimes, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, by Jagadananda. What's the name of it? Prema Vivarta by Jagadananda Pandit. And according to the Vaishnavacharyas, the three most important literatures on Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, the first and foremost is the Chaitanya Charitamrita, written by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Second is the Chaitanya Bhagavat, written by Vrindavan Das Thakur, who is considered to be an incarnation of Srila Vyasadeva. The third most important Vaishnava literature on Lord Chaitanya's pastimes is the Bhakti Ratnakar by Nahar Sakar. And then the fourth is Prema Vivarta by Jagadananda Pandit. And there's pastimes in there that you will only find in Prema Vivarta. They're not even mentioned in the other literature. Like once Sarup Damodar Goswami, who was Lord Chaitanya's secretary, and he was the one who would read things to approve them for Lord Chaitanya to hear them, or to approve them for other devotees, to disseminate. And he got in an argument with Jagadananda and told him, "Look, these pastimes are too intimate that you're writing. No, you shouldn't be writing this down." And Jagadananda said, "Look, this is my book. I'm writing whatever I want in it. If you don't like it, write your own book." So you'll find these kind of stories there. So Jagadananda, Lord Chaitanya complained about him and said, "He wants me to enjoy bodily sense gratification, and out of fear, I'll do whatever he tells me." So what this is referring to specifically is once Jagadananda had a pot of pure sandalwood oil made for Lord Chaitanya to be massaged with. So all the devotees would bring the gifts for Lord Chaitanya, and his servant is Govinda Das, which is a really unique relationship that he had, because Govinda was the personal servant of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master, Ishvara Puri. So generally the servants and the disciples of the Guru don't become the personal servants or disciples of their godbrothers or of the Guru's other disciples. But Govinda did that. So it's a really interesting explanation of Vaishnava etiquette. Yeah, you want to raise your hand? Go ahead. Yeah, let's have a discussion, you guys.
Hare Krishna.
I'm sorry, I can't remember your name.
It's Kaylee.
Kaylee.
Yeah.
Like Rama Kaylee, Krishna.
Yeah.
Rasa Kaylee. Okay.
Just Kaylee though.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so you were talking about how I cannot remember who is speaking, but about someone wanted another person to enjoy bodily sense gratification.
Okay, that's Lord Chaitanya is complaining about this devotee, Jagadananda. This devotee is Satyabhama in Krishna's Leela, his wife, one of his most intimate wives.
Oh.
And now she's come in his Leela as Lord Chaitanya, and now, but she takes the part, she always is, she's very careful with everything that Lord Chaitanya does. So, but one of the things she did was she brought this pot, or he now, right? Jagadananda, Satyabhama becomes Jagadananda. And she brings this pot of pure sandalwood oil. So this was common because all the devotees would send gifts to Lord Chaitanya. Like most of the devotees were grihastas, right? So they couldn't be with him. So they would send like special food. They would send special gifts. And Jagadananda sent this pot of pure sandalwood oil for Govinda to massage him with. I don't know if you ever had a massage with sandalwood oil. Have you ever done that?
No.
Yeah, if you mix sandalwood oil with like tiger balm, it's very common like in Thailand and other countries, though, if you get an oil massage, they mix sandalwood oil with like camphor and what else is in tiger balm? There's a couple other things in it that, but anyway, they massage you with it, but it's incredibly fragrant and it's amazing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that explanation.
Do you understand? What's your question? That's
Yeah.
it?
No. My question is, what's the difference between bodily sense gratification and spiritual sense gratification?
There's not much. No, I'm just joking. Okay, I'll give you a very good example, okay, that may really open our discussion. At the time when Pandu Maharaj was killed, so now we're talking about the Mahabharata. So Pandu Maharaj, right, he was considered to be the emperor of the world because his father had died untimely. So you know, right, he was one of three brothers. So there was, the oldest brother was Dhritarashtra, and he was going to be the king. He had the strength of 10,000 elephants, Dhritarashtra. Like when after all of his sons were killed, and he moved into the palace of Maharaj Yudhisthira, he still wanted to kill Bhima for having killed his sons, even though the war was over. So Vidura, who's his uncle, and who was a great intellectual, and he's one of the three brothers, he said, look, he told Bhima, all the Pandavas were going up and they were embracing Dhritarashtra. And Vidura told Bhima, don't embrace him. Take this sculpture. There was a stone sculpture that was the size of Bhima, and he said, hand that to bring that to him as if because he was born blind. And when they put the sculpture in front of, what is his name again? Dhritarashtra, he smashed it into thousands of pieces. So even up to the last breath, he was trying to kill the Pandavas and especially kill Bhima. So but he was born blind, so he couldn't become king. So then the next brother was Pandu. And he's called Pandu because he's so white. He's so white. And then they had another brother who was Vidura, but he was considered disqualified because of his mother was one of the maids in the palace, because the queen, she was afraid of. Anyway, it's a very deep story. I shouldn't go into all the details, otherwise I'll lose you. Well, okay, so there are three brothers. So now Pandu becomes the king, but Pandu, they would go into the forest and hunt. And Pandu liked being in the forest with his wife and with his kids, and staying in the forest and protecting Brahmins and sages in the forest than he did living in the capital city. He preferred being in the country. And so on one occasion, they would practice hunting, and they would hunt like ferocious animals. Like even today, if you go to Jaipur and you look at the collection of weapons by the Jaipur kings, for thousands of years, they have their personal weapons, and they have paintings of them. Two things you'll notice. One is every picture of every king, every painting of every king, he's got a japa bag on his hand. And the other thing you'll notice in all of their weapons, they have weapons where they would, with their bare hands, kill tigers. because the tigers were threatening people lived in the forest. And so to practice their chivalry, they would kill tigers by hand. Even today, I lived in northern China in a city called Dandong, which is right on the border of North Korea and Inner Mongolia. There's one Chinese martial artist who's very famous, and every year he goes into the jungles of Inner Mongolia in the Siberian area, and he kills a tiger with his bare hands and brings it back. He doesn't even use knives. So Pandu, he had unnecessarily killed these two Brahmins, and one in particular, I might be getting these stories mixed up, but anyway, just to get you back up to the point we are, is he was cursed that if he ever tries to approach his wife, he'll die instantly for sex. If he ever tries to have sex with his wife, or be intimate with her, because the time when he killed these two, there were two sages, and they had converted themselves into deers through mystic power. They could change their forms. Even in the Chinese literature, it's like that. Even up till recently, they could change their forms, just like me. I also have this power. You'll see me normally when I'm going to work, and then you see me now. I've changed my form. But yeah, even in the Chinese history, I worked with my Guru Maharaj on Chinese literature, and we were interviewing all these different famous Chinese scholars. Even Srila Prabhupada, he mentioned that the Chinese race, it's very interesting because the Chinese themselves say this. The Chinese themselves say they are descendants of the Naga race, of snakes. And Prabhupada said that they mentioned in Mahabharata, they're called Kasha. They actually fought against the Pandavas, the Chinese did, but in the Battle of Kurukshetra. A lot of nice Chinese devotees, don't get me wrong, it's not a racial thing. But what happened was, with Prabhupada, he mentions how the Nagas come from what's a planet beneath the earthly sphere, but it's still a heavenly world. So they're called subterranean subterranean heavenly planets. So they have features of hell, but they're considered heavenly because they're very opulent. Like the women are very beautiful. People have mystic powers. They can change their forms and different things like that. So these Nagas, the Chinese say that three powerful descendants of theirs, they were Nagas. They came from this subterranean heavenly planet to Earth because they were being killed in an intergalactic battle. This is what the Chinese say. And they were the ones who originally procreated the whole race, the Chinese race. And Prabhupada said you can see that because, one, their slanted eyes are a natural reaction to the increase of sunlight on this planet as opposed to where they originally were, born from. Two, Chinese people, no hair grows on their body. Chinese don't shave. You don't see a Chinese guy buying Gillette razors. They might have a couple of, warts that grow here, some minimal hair growth, but generally hair doesn't grow on Chinese, which is indicative of a reptiles type of form. Okay, so the Chinese mention how these Nagas, even up till not too long ago, they would transform themselves into different forms. Just like we read in the Krishna book. And this is documented by people who witnessed this in historical, biographical, and autobiographical literature. So it's not that this is just Indian mythology that somebody made up and this stuff is nuts. But this is even recorded in so many historical references. Just like in the English, in my culture, we have what are called the sons of Danava. The sons of Danava were a race of elves. And they had mystic power, and they were worshipped by the Irish and the Scottish and the English, and they could control the weather. And they had superhuman powers. They were undefeatable in war. They could play like incredible music. As musicians, they were super handsome or beautiful physically. And if the local people would make offerings to them each year, if they didn't, then these sons of Danava was what they're called in English. Danava is a Sanskrit name which refers to the demoniac race, but sons of Danava, they're referred to, you can Google search them. And they could destroy entire, like whole crops with powerful, weather, powerful storms, and they had all kinds of mystic powers. And it's described how they could change their forms. The Chinese could change their forms. It's documented. You know, like this whole thing of the werewolf and this kind of stuff. This all comes out of this literature. And also with Pandu, these two Brahmins, they wanted to have sense gratification. Now we're talking about difference between spiritual sense gratification and material sense gratification. So they wanted to have unrestricted sex, these two Brahmins. So what they did was, with their mystic power, they changed themselves into deer, because the animals are not under the religious codes of human beings. And they were having sexual intercourse unrestrictedly. And then Pandu, who was practicing hunting in the forest, saw the male deer, and there's like a set of animals that they generally are allowed to hunt. And so he killed the deer, the male deer, when it was approaching the female, and then he transformed back into a Brahmin, and so did she. And then she cursed Pandu that, you ever approach your wife, you'll die, just like you killed my husband when he was approaching me. People, they were so potent, even their words could destroy everything you have. So then what happened was, Pandu always lived in a very simple lifestyle and a very dispassionate lifestyle. But he had two queens, Queen Kunti and Queen Madri. So once they were in the forest, it was springtime, and the wind will waft through the forest, especially in the spring. There's many types of wildflowers. The fragrance is just amazing. Like, you go into the deep forests in the springtime, and the sound of the rivers and everything, it's very sensually arousing, by smelling the flowers and feeling the cool breezes and the sounds of birds and everything. And then you can imagine, right, that as Madri and Queen Kunti, they were so gorgeous. They were unparalleled as beautiful women in the entire world. Queen Kunti, she was actually blessed by Durvasa Muni in two ways. One, she will be able to call any demigod to her that she willed. Right? So the Pandavas were born by different demigods because her husband was cursed, so she couldn't have intercourse with her husband for a child. So she would call the demigods, because a queen shouldn't be sonless. And then the other blessing that she received, she will never look one day older than 16 years of age. So even when she was an older woman, she was ravishingly beautiful. So there's a discussion Prabhupada mentions between Krishna and Maharaj Yudhisthira. So another name of Maharaj Yudhisthira is Dharmaraj, and that one who always speaks the truth. What's that name that he had? That means one who always speaks the truth. Remember Krishna used that against the Kauravas in the Battle of Kurukshetra, and he told Yudhisthira, say that Duryodhana's son Ashvatthama had been killed. And Maharaj Yudhisthira had never spoken a lie before in his life. And he hesitated to do that for Krishna. Another liar. I'm joking about it. We should look at that carefully, okay? All right, because this is going to touch on your topic too, that spiritual gratification and spiritual principles are transcendental to morality. Is what we're touching on right now. But so, all right, so Maharaj Yudhisthira, he wouldn't lie. Krishna asked him to lie. It said that Maharaj Yudhisthira, when he would walk or when he would ride in his chariot, because he was so truthful, that even his chariot wouldn't touch the ground. It would transverse above the earth because of his truthfulness. Or if he came in the room, his feet wouldn't touch the ground. So then he hesitated to lie on behalf of Krishna. And as soon as he did that, his chariot went down to the ground. He lost that potency by not surrendering. to Krishna's will. And so then Krishna told him, then say the elephant Ashvatthama has been killed, because there was an elephant on the battlefield also named Ashvatthama. So he made that lie. And then it broke Duryodhana, shattered his heart within his armor, and that's how they were able to kill, Dronacharya, their teacher. Otherwise, Dronacharya was invincible. He couldn't be killed. And he had killed like millions of their soldiers, even on that day. He was so powerful. So, so sense gratification and spiritual sense gratification. All right, so here's the story. So Maharaj Yudhisthira was cursed. So on this particular day, he lost control of himself in the springtime in the forest, and he approached Queen Madri for sexual union. And immediately he died because of the curse of this Brahmin woman. And it's when he died in her arms, in Madri's arms. And she started crying piteously and calling out. And Queen Kunti and the Pandavas were nearby there. And Queen Kunti could hear that. And she came there and she saw Maharaj Pandu had died, right? And so at that point, the Pandavas were very young. Yudhisthira was only 14 years old when his father died. So, and he was the oldest of the 5 sons, the 5 brothers. So they were crying, and then the sages, everybody came. They performed the funeral ceremony for Maharaj Pandu, and that's the time when Queen Kunti and the Pandavas were sent back to Hastinapur, and they were put under the care of Dhritarashtra. Thank you. And, all right, so what happened was, there was a discussion between Queen Kunti and Madri. Now, normally, when a king has multiple wives, then the senior wife, at the time of when his body is burned or in samadhied, she'll voluntarily give up her life out of love for her husband. Because it's said that when a woman is so deeply in love with her husband, if she dies at the same time, then she will travel with the soul of her husband to be with him in the next life, wherever he may be, in heaven, in hell, or in the spiritual world. So generally, these princesses, that become queens, they were so much in love with their husbands that they would voluntarily enter into the fire where their husband's body was being burned and embrace the husband's body and give up their lives voluntarily like that. So that was customary. Later it became forced and it became outlawed in India because people didn't want to take care of these girls after their husbands had died. They forced them into the fires with their husbands. And it became some hellish perversion. But the actual original culture is something very pure and amazing. And it's spiritual. All right. So when they were discussing what would happen, when they were discussing, Maharaj Pandu had died, Madri was there, Kunti was there. Generally, the senior queen will give up her life with the king, and the younger queen or queens would take care of the children. But because King Pandu had died embracing Madri, desiring Madri, so they made the decision that no, you should give up your life, Madri, and follow Maharaj Pandu and satisfy his desires, his sexual desire for you. You should follow him. And I will stay and take care of the Pandavas. This is the discussion that they had. And so, yes, she was so devastated because she had died with her. Yes, right? She also what? And she also thought that Kunti would make a better mother. Yeah, so Kunti would be a better mother than Madri. I guess Madri was, she got angry quick or something. What would be her disqualification for Madri? I could never imagine those. But there must have been some reason. She wanted? Right. Okay, so in this particular romantic interlude, the spiritual point is made that gratifying the senses of a religious or spiritual person is pure devotional service. Just like when the gopis approach Krishna, they dress beautifully. They say so many, sensual things. They push each other towards Krishna. They try to heighten what's in Sanskrit it's called smar. They try to heighten their lust, but not their personal lust for their senses, but the lust that they have to gratify Krishna. And that's the difference. The difference between spiritual sense gratification and material gratification is that material gratification focuses on the gratification of our senses or the extended senses of our family or our nation or whatever, but it's a petty, selfish desire. Whereas the spiritual sense gratification is directed towards the spiritual master. The spiritual master may ask you to do something you don't want to do. But out of love, you give up your personal, petty, selfish gratification, and you engage yourself in the higher service of satisfying your spiritual master's senses. And that's true for our mother and father if they're devotees. Even when they're not devotees, we should offer respect to all living beings, right? And try to satisfy them. But we understand, as what we read right here, Lord Chaitanya was glorifying the devotees as his best friends and dearest family members because they had brought him to Jagannath Puri and allowed him to actually have the darshan of Jagannath. So in the case now, because I think this is a very vivid case with Madri and Marish Pandu, right? Because normally when we just think of some romantic couple, they're just lost in lust and sensual desire. But you see how you could never equate that with these great personalities because they're only thinking of the satisfaction of the person that they have given their life to. That's the difference. But it's a fine line. If you were just to look at a devotee and a non-devotee, it'd be very difficult to ascertain that. We can ascertain, obviously, if somebody is out preaching, selling books, worshiping the deities, chanting the rounds, coming, we can see clearly. Prabhupada also said, when he asked my guru, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, when my god brothers come to you and criticize you and question and demand from you why you call me Prabhupada, because Prabhupada was reserved for their guru, Srila Prabhupada's guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. And he said, when my god brothers, the other disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, come to you and criticize you and question you and criticize me why you call me Prabhupada, what will you say? Because when they first went to India, there were no ISKCON temples. There was practically nothing. They stayed in the Gaudiya Math temple when they first went there. Like in Mayapur, they stayed at the Devamrita, Devananda Pandit Gaudiya Math. There was no temple in Vrindavan, no temple in Mayapur, no temples anywhere in India, Bombay, nowhere. So they stayed in the Gaudiya Math. And already Prabhupada's god brothers were criticizing Prabhupada for being called Prabhupada and for other reasons too. And so they said, Prabhupada asked my guru, his disciple, Tamal Krishna Goswami, what will you say? So what will you guys say? There's still some devotees of the Gaudiya Math living. When I first joined, my Guru Maharaj used to bring me to Mayapur. This is in 1980 for Janmashtami and Prabhupada's Vyas Puja, and about 20 Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati disciples. Most of them were sannyasis, some of them were grihastas, a few of them were grihastas, and about 300 of their brahmachari disciples all came and celebrated Janmashtami and Prabhupada's Vyas Puja together with us. So there were some that are very appreciative and favorable, but there were some that became highly critical, and they wanted to undermine Prabhupada's work and also take his disciples away from him. So if somebody asks you, why do you call him Prabhupada? That is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's title. Who are you to take the title of Prabhupada and give that to your guru? What will you say? You say nothing? You just sit there? You? Any of you? If the shoe fits, wear it. So what you're saying is that Prabhupada, the shoe Prabhupada, the title Prabhupada fit, so that's why he's wearing it. So could you just repeat it quickly?
Oh, Rupa Goswami was also given address as Prabhupada. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati also addressed, because they were acharyas who were able to accomplish something which was extraordinary, which like other acharyas had not been able to do. So Srila Prabhupada was able to do something which was extraordinary.
So obviously the title was deserved. And that's what Prabhupada, when he asked my Guru Maharaj that question, Prabhupada himself answered the question. He first asked it, and then Prabhupada answered. He said, you tell them, you're addressing me as Prabhupada because I've opened so many temples. I've initiated so many disciples around the world. I've translated and printed and distributed so many books all over the world. And that's why you're calling me Prabhupada. Prabhupada actually, my Guru Maharaj told me, Prabhupada hated the term Jagat Guru. Prabhupada didn't want the devotees to call him Jagat Guru. That's what Tamal Krishna Maharaj said. It's even recorded on lectures here and other places. But Prabhupada, when they would call someone Jagat Guru, Prabhupada said, these men hadn't even gone out of their villages. And they're allowing people to call him Jagat Guru. Prabhupada, that kind of invoked an anger in Prabhupada's heart, this term Jagat Guru. But obviously Prabhupada deserved it too. You know, the devotees aren't calling Prabhupada Jagat Guru, and he's never gone out of his village. You know, to sit here on this Vyasasana, which I'm highly unqualified to do, but that what's mentioned in the scripture, to sit on a Vyasasana and to represent Srila Vyasadeva, a devotee, first of all, has to be flawless in that they've never, you know, they don't fall down, they're studying their devotional service, right? They're controlling their anger and their passions and their, you know, all of this. They're so learned in the scripture, but not only that, they have to be a perfect example. They have to be learned in the scripture, but they also have to have traveled throughout the entire world and have defeated every opposing philosophy to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada did that, you know. That you know, now we're talking about what the real devotee is.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That's why Rom Harsana Sutta was sitting on the Vyasasana when Lord Balram, he was traveling, going back to the Hastinapur, and he saw there the associations going on for the Bhagavatam preachings.
Wait, your accent's kind of heavy. You got to speak very clear and slowly. When Prabhu's talking about Romaharshana Sutta, who was the father of Sukadev Goswami, and he
Not
was
Sukadev Goswami.
Who?
Sutta Goswami.
Sutta Goswami, thank you.
Yeah.
Of Sutta Goswami, and he was killed by Lord Balaram.
Yeah, that will be coming later part, so I'm just going through. So, when Lord Balaram was passing by, so since he was sitting on the Vyasasana, he thought of his supreme, you know. So, yeah, somebody is sitting on the Vyasasana, he is on that time considered to be superior kind of, and he should not be leaving that asana. But on that time,
wait a minute, he should not be what?
He should not be leaving that asana.
Oh, he should not be leaving the asana. So
yeah,
I respect the devotee.
Yeah, the further. But when Lord is present there, so Lord is supreme. So he should leave the asana. At least he should give the offer the obeisances, or sitting on the asana also he should pay respect. No, like yeah, you are the Lord, saying just please accept my humble obeisances. Kind of. Suppose you are sitting on the asana, Now your Guru Maharaj walk away. So you will not be simply sitting and addressing ourselves, right? You will be saying that
No, I want him to sit here. I wanna
humbly,
go.
right?
All right, I'm going to listen.
He was in so ego that he is addressing 88,000 sages. Rom Harsana Sutta is addressing 88,000 sages. So Lord Balram is nothing for him. So he ignored him. He disobeyed him. So Lord became angry and he chopped his head. Because
No,
such
didn't
kind
he
of
kill him with that piece of grass?
what?
Kusha grass, right?
Yeah, chopped his head by the kusa
He took
grass.
the
only.
grass and he pierced his heart.
Yeah. So meaning is here like one who is sitting on the asana, he should be very, very humble.
Oh my God, you guys, I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
shouldn't be here. I
Should
couldn't resist it.
He's
My
no,
false ego
it's not
drove me here.
yeah, it's not funny.
No, really, you guys, I'm serious. Please
Yeah.
forgive me.
So-
I know I'm not qualified.
So meaning is like that's what we are talking about, that he should be whosoever, he should be very, very humble, in the sense he should be knowing all the shastra, as you told, he should be qualified and he should be very, very humble too. So otherwise,
See, but wait, I have one question. Prabhupada, okay, the people in India will criticize Prabhupada because Prabhupada would criticize them. And the Indians would say, God, how can you be a sadhu sitting on a Vyasasan? You're not humble at all. You're criticizing us. Prabhupada practically, from my perspective, I have never seen a person that has criticized everything and everyone in this world more than Srila Prabhupada. You cannot find a single thing in this world that Prabhupada has not criticized, and anybody who's practicing anything but pure devotional service, Prabhupada has criticized them, constantly criticized
that is
them.
two different things.
That's my question to you.
Yeah, one is humble, one is criticism. What you were saying, that is the what we can say, that is the instruction of a guru. He has to maintain, being guru. So it is said that guru na sasyat, swajana na sasyat, pati na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, deva na sasyat. Means if they cannot liberate you from this material world, bondage of the material world, they are not guru. So the duty of the guru is to chastise the disciples and to the audience, like those who are not following the proper regulative principle or instructions, to chastise them. It's not like if something had to be given hard instruction, guru has to give that.
But then I don't like you. You only should say nice things about me.
Right.
Otherwise, I don't want to hear your class.
Thank you so much.
I'm just joking, you guys. Yeah, Prabhupada himself, he said, tell them, look at my accomplishments. So we also, we have to look carefully at our accomplishments in our daily devotional service and evaluate our advancement like that, Prabhupada, what's unique about Prabhupada's teachings also is that normally when you look at other scholars, when they translate bhakti, they just talk about somebody's feelings. They always talk about feelings, But Prabhupada translates bhakti as devotional service. Prabhupada wanted us to understand that bhakti has to be based on practical activity also, like that. So devotional service is meant to be active. But back to Kaylee, that question about sense gratification as opposed to spiritual gratification. So one is a selfless surrender of oneself, even up to the point of completely surrendering one's body, mind, and words. The gopis are glorified for that, right? That they even surrender their bodies for Krishna's pleasure. But the surrendering, and we were talking about sannyas and Lord Nityananda, right? The surrendering of one's body, mind, and words in submission to the spiritual master, the pure devotee, the Vaishnavas, Krishna himself. And we can evaluate, that's not just like a a cheap thing that, oh, I'm surrendering my body, and then the person just uses us for some sexual abuse or some illicit sexual thing. That's not what we're talking about. And in the case of Queen Kunti and Madri and Maharaj Pandu, their relationship is a sacred relationship, and also it was meant for them to procreate children that could rule the whole world. It wasn't just, like when I was raised, going down to the local drive-through grocery store and the girl rolls up to your car on her roller skates, and it's like, oh my God, I'm ready to marry you. Oh, bottom line. Okay, we're over time, but shoot, what's the bottom line, please? I need to hear it.
Yeah, just to give the borderline for a spiritual sense gratification and material sense gratification.
Yes.
So engagement of the senses in the Krishna service is the spiritual sense gratification, and engagement of the senses for our satisfaction, that is the material sense gratification. For example, if I have to engage my eyes just to have the Lord darshan, how is the outfit and everything, so that's the eyes we can engage in the Krishna service.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, smelling the flower or incense, we can use that.
Yeah.
And eating the prasad. And so all the senses that can be engaged in the Krishna service, that is the spiritual sense gratification. Whereas the material sense gratification for our satisfactions only, kama, krodha, lobha, moh, matsarya. So these are all things we are doing for our pleasure.
But sometimes, what I want to conclude with is that sometimes devotional service is not sense gratification. In other words, there was when the Pandavas, when Dhritarashtra and Pandu and Maharaj, who's the sage Yamaraj? He becomes the brother of Pandu. Vidura, thank you. So, yeah, Vidura, when they were born, what happened was their mother was childless, and without, the story I haven't written in a long time, but it's what is their mother's name? Yeah, but before that, the one that was impregnated by Vyasadeva, Satyavati. So Satyavati, then she wanted these three girls to be impregnated. So what had happened was they were captured by Maharaj. They were taken by Bhima. So Bhima was a lifetime brahmachari. He had taken a vow to Bhishma. Thank you. So Bhishma had taken a vow so that his father could be married to Satyavati. So Satyavati, this is kind of very detailed, but Satyavati was, she was born on a boat, and she had a very fishy odor, but actually she was a great